Welcome to the Hangar Z podcast, brought to you by Vertical Helicast. This episode is recorded on location in Nashville from the Nashville Metro Police Aviation Hangar as part of the Hangar Z Vertical Valor Blades of Valor tour. This road tour included visits to some of North America's public safety aviation units, showcasing some of the country's heroes who exemplify courage, dedication, and selflessness in the line of duty every day. Jack Schoney, Brent Bundy from Vertical Valor magazine, and I were invited into the Nashville Metro Police Aviation Hangar to see firsthand the good work they're doing to protect the citizens and visitors of Music City. In this episode of the Hangar Z podcast, we sit down with Sergeant Nate Dungum from the Nashville Metro Aviation Unit. Nate shares the unit's ongoing transformation and the significant strides they've made in enhancing mission capabilities. We dive into their K9 unit's collaboration with Spike's K9 Fund and discuss how social media plays a crucial role in recruitment and community engagement. Nate also emphasizes the importance of building strong relationships within the department, the power of mentorship, and the value of networking in law enforcement. Nate opens up about his extensive background in both law enforcement and the military, including his deployment to Iraq and his experiences with the Civil Air Patrol. As the conversation progresses, we explore the impact of new aircraft on their operations and the importance of prioritizing safety, especially in light of recent maintenance issues. Nate wraps up by offering a set of rules for successful unit operations, highlighting the significance of clear goals, humility, and a culture of trust. We also get a sneak peek into the upcoming construction of a new hangar for Nashville Metro Aviation and the vital role of maintaining a positive culture within the unit. This episode is packed with insights, experiences, and actionable advice for anybody in public safety aviation. Thank you to our sponsors, Traca Systems, Airbus, and Astronautics Corporation of America.
Welcome to the Hangar Z podcast, brought to you by Vertical Helicasts. The Hangar Z podcast is the first and only podcast dedicated to promoting and exploring the personnel and equipment behind the missions in public safety aviation. Join your host, John Gray, Jeff Ratkovich, and Jack Schoney.
Still southbound, skidding to a stop. Stand by here. Looks like you're getting ready to bail. Heads up, guys, bailing. Okay, the guy, he's running through the house, jumping the fence, threw the shotgun, threw something out. Grabbing the shotgun. Don't go over that fence. Don't go over that fence. Grab the shotgun again. He is armed. Stay there. Hold your position.
4 on the stop. You're in custody.
Good advising code 4 on the stop.
Hey, welcome to Hangar Z podcast. I'm your host, John Gray. Still part of the Hangar Z Vertical Valor Road Tour here in Nashville. We've been here for 2 days now. Unfortunately, it's not enough time to be in this city. This is a cool city. We've had a great time. Had a great time in Oxford. Going from Oxford to Nashville was a beautiful drive. We hit Buc-ee's for the first time.
John's first Buc-ee's?
Yeah, that was impressive. In fact, I was so impressed I lost my sunglasses and in my shopping cart. Well, it's not a shopping cart. It's a buggy, right?
Yeah. In your buggy.
So with us to talk about Nashville Metro's aviation unit is Sergeant Nate Dungum, and I probably said it wrong.
No, you said it right.
Did I ever?
Yeah, you said it right.
All right. Thank you for allowing us to come into your hangar, your home, and see your operation. We had a lot of fun flying with you guys yesterday. In fact, we took Brent did a million photos and created really cool content, and I released a short reel on social media last night. I've got a ton of positive feedback, including feedback from Spike's, and we'll get to Spike's K9 Fund, and we'll get to how y'all interact with your K9. I said y'all. Like I've been here forever.
Yeah.
We've been in the South for 3 days. I think
you're adapting well.
Yeah, I'm very good, John.
But yeah, it's really interesting to see how you guys operate in conjunction with your K9 unit and how that culture kind of bleeds into itself. And we had Jimmy Hatch on the podcast a while back, and he's the founder of Spike's. And we're talking to your folks in the K9 operation, and Jack actually discovered, and maybe I should hand the conversation over to you, how you figured out
Yeah, it was just real quick. We were in the hangar, which is connected to the K9 unit. It's all one big building split in half. And just happened to start talking to the K9 handlers, of course. And we were talking about the podcast and how it goes beyond law enforcement aviation and that they'd be interested in a lot of the episodes. And I said, including an episode with Jimmy Hatch. And one of your K9 handlers, Amanda, said, "Oh, Spike's K9 Fund." I said, "Oh, you know about that?" She goes, "They supplied our ballistic vests for our unit, the whole unit." That's amazing. That's a big deal. And so that set us off on a new. We took some more photos of Miko, Amanda's dog, with the K9 with the Spike's K9 Fund logo on it. last night I sent a picture to Jimmy and to Jen and to Emily from Spike's Canine Fund. They were thrilled, So it's just funny how small a world it is and how it all interacts. And they have met Jen and Emily and Jimmy, and they love them. And it was just kind of cool how it all interacts from a podcast.
Yeah.
We find this all the time. So that was nice. It wasn't the aviation side, but you guys are connected. They're your customers. You work with them regularly, and you're in the same building. They helped us with some photos yesterday that our listeners will eventually see. And so that's the Spikes connection.
Yeah. It's really neat to see what Spikes is doing for the law enforcement community, the military community, just I guess the canine community in general, because they're helping dogs in all aspects of the service world, right?
Yeah.
And
medical bills, equipment, but the ballistic vest is the big one, and that's the one that they helped Nashville Metro with.
Yeah, and our unit is over the moon with the support that Spikes and sponsorship with them has brought in bringing that equipment out, and they've done a lot of work to get the funding for that and other trauma treatment training and stuff for their unit. As you know, working in government, sometimes the funding is not everything you need to get what you need. So our canine officers have done a phenomenal job in building their own funding through T-shirt sales, stuff that y'all have talked about before, and building a unit fund to help out supplement. And they did a phenomenal job with that to build and support growing their unit themselves.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Well, I could tell just from my short chats yesterday with them that they're very proud of their unit, and they work hard to keep it alive and keep it working, and they're doing things right.
Yeah.
That was part of the conversation. And Jimmy, his response when I sent that picture is, "I love that unit. That is a great unit." And I said, "I concur."
Yeah.
It's the little bit that we got to see. Everybody was the things that they talked about. It was evident. So that's cool. And it's just again, it's the small world of Jimmy and getting out to people and getting known and doing good things on medical bills. One of the things that they talked about was the class on medical for the dogs and how important that class was. Well, Spike's Canine Fund is sponsoring that class across the United States, and that's stuff I never had as a canine handler. And I think back and go, how stupid is that? The chances of them getting injured, I mean, even choking on a ball, would I have known what to do? The answer is no. I would have done something, but would it have been the right thing? That medical class covers everything from toys being choked on to getting stabbed, shot, injured. It's amazing.
Well, man, I just think about operating in some of the backyards that we've been in the course of our careers, and absolute junk piles that we're walking through.
Yeah.
And these canines are maneuvering through these places, and I'm surprised there's not more paw injuries than there are.
So many hazards.
Yeah, very, very much so. And they do a phenomenal job, like you said, growing the unit, developing it, and taking some ownership. And we're thrilled for that, to watch and support. And being in the same building has built a good culture between our units for a long time. In fact, we were, historically, up until a couple of years ago, we've shared the same budget. We shared the same command staff. We were under the same umbrella for section as far as our chain of organizational structure was set up. So we don't really have a big separation from that, which is good, because when they need something, we communicate well with them, I think.
I like
That's
that.
cool.
Of all the units, as a canine, I'm looking at it from a canine perspective. Of all the units that we worked around and with, air support was the most common, and yet we kind of knew them, but really didn't know them. You guys know each other.
We do.
You know each other by first names. You talk. You can debrief. You can you land, and they show up back to the office, and you're face to face saying, "Hey, how did that go?"
Exactly.
And it doesn't always go good, and you can learn.
And they're honest brokers about it, and we take the criticism because that's how we grow and build our repertoire, and the unit fix our weaknesses, whether it's on an individual team level or as a whole. And if we have a training hole within our unit, fix that and get the feedback from an officer on the ground. And an officer on the ground that sees and knows what we're doing is a great liaison.
A winning recipe.
Yeah.
Really is. I love it.
Well, it's huge. We talk about debriefs all the time, and my agency was an agency that didn't get the opportunity to debrief very often because of where our hangar was in proximity to the main station and anybody else. We're isolated, and you guys were too.
Yeah, the island. We called it the island.
Right.
Yeah.
But you guys are in the same building, and when you think about critical incidents, the two units that are responding to any critical incident in the city is going to be K9 and air support. So the fact that y'all are in the same place, I said y'all again.
You did.
The fact that
you're going to buy a house, and
I love it. He was looking at houses this
you're
morning.
going to buy a house in Wilson County, and
the fact that you guys are operating in the same place allows you, to build off each other's strengths and weaknesses, and that's really cool. So, anyways, that's a pretty cool rabbit hole we just went down. But I am excited to be here. Your facilities is really cool. We came in here. We had an address. We drove to the address. And we're like, where the heck are we? And where's the hangar?
Yeah.
So we come into the property, and it's the police academy's building. We inadvertently did an entire tour of the entire campus looking for your place,
which didn't take long. But
That was great.
but I call him like, where are you guys? And you're like, So we found your spot, and again, it's cool. You drive down your facility, and you got the building you guys are in. You got the K9 training areas out front, and then that's in conjunction with your guys' essentially your little heliport.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for inviting us into your home. And
well, John, thank you for coming out, and we're honored to be on your list of people to visit. So
yeah,
just thrilled to be a part of the podcast. A lot of our guys here have listened, and we're excited to be a part of it.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you that one of the reasons that it came up on the radar immediately was because of social media. Your social media account is excellent. The photos on it, outstanding. It jumps out. Not every unit's doing that. John loves to talk about this because it's so important in today's world. We just talked about it in Oxford, where they landed a pilot from San Diego that we've known, and that was off Instagram. He saw the ad, hey, we're looking for a pilot on Instagram, and next thing you know, he's their newest pilot. So social media is here. It's alive and well, and you guys are involved in that heavily, and that put you on the radar where we said, well, if we're there, it's a couple hours and we can be in Nashville. Let's make that happen. New aircraft, we knew about that. We knew that lots was going on with changes here, and we wanted to talk to you about it. So that's what brought it up, just so you know how we kind of ended up, and we reached out through Spencer, through a friend of ours who had met
Jeff.
Spencer Pittman.
Jeff Rakovich.
And
thanks, Jeff.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. That was a good call. And then that got the ball rolling, and here we are today, and you're sitting in your office. So
I would like to rabbit hole again for a minute and talk about social media since we're on that topic.
Yeah, let's
because
do it.
When you look at recruitment, and then you look at the window it opens to the folks in the community that are literally paying for these programs, it offers a lot. And a lot of agencies have a hard time getting the authorization to create an account. Can you talk about how you guys received that authorization and what it's done for you guys?
Absolutely. Well, that whole conversation is another rabbit hole that we could go down about, tapping into the resources of people that you have in your unit and allowing creativity to happen. And when I came to the unit here, that wasn't looked upon well. If you had an idea, it was kind of squashed, and it's just that's not the way we do things. And talent was kind of held down, and people weren't motivated to do something. And we went to trying to make changes in the unit after some leadership adjustments, and it's really picked up. And we are just trying to tap the resources of the people we have. Not throw extra jobs on the people. An officer is oftentimes like, oh, you want me to do this on top of what you already want me to do, and that's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to motivate people in our unit to make this what you want it to be. Take ownership of the unit. Everyone has a voice in this unit. Like, you're in a tribe when you're on our unit. Tribal leadership is a thing here, and for us, this is not just our unit; it's our tribe, our people.
That's cool.
And so everybody has something to say or be or do in this unit, and we want them to take pride in what they do. And brand marketing was a big thing for us. I used to run a nonprofit organization outside of the department. I joined the police department in 2011 after graduating college, and took a struggling nonprofit and started rebranding it. And I saw the significance that giving people in that unit a sense of pride and ownership meant to them. So we started making changes on the signage outside the unit, and and building a sign. And, you know, I came down here one day and started painting some stuff on the front of the building that was old and derelict because people didn't care. It's an old building and stuff like that, and take pride in what you have, you know. Even though it's old, you're not going to get something better if you don't take care of what you got.
Yeah, very absolutely. Good point.
And you know, I got ridiculed by some of the people. Why are you doing that? That looks ugly. You know, but the point of it was, you know, if we take pride and we have some ownership on what we have, and this is where we're at. This is what we got to live in. You know, we're here more than we are with our families a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
So if you take care of what you got and you're proud of it, then you're going to like being here. Yeah, and you're not going to lose people.
Right.
So I got to give David Willover, one of our full-time TFOs, ownership in that. Hashtag NatGeo is what we call him, because he came over here. He was a detective, had long hair and a beard, and you know, we joke about it, but he actually got run out of a park one time because it was near a school, and a runner thought that he was taking pictures of kids on the playground, but he was just out there with a huge zoom lens taking some awesome pictures, and he has a social media presence, just being an amateur, a pro-am, if you will, photographer.
Right.
So he came over here, massive talent, guys. I mean, he was a really good crack detective in his unit and special investigations. Really good with technology, a master at just a natural wizard with Westcam systems.
Yeah.
And they took ownership.
That's cool.
You know, learned everything about the camera that he was working with in the aircraft, and then, you know, started talking about, hey, social media, you know, what are we doing with it? What can we do? Here's what other agencies are doing. I think with a little bit of effort, approval, we could do something. I was like, man, here's the delegation of your task.
Yeah.
You want it, run with it.
That's cool.
So Henry Particelli, the TFO sergeant, and I were like, you know, reach out to the public information officer, sit down with him, tell him what your vision is, get their approval, because we had a Facebook account, and it was kind of like old and not being used. And David said, okay. And he went up to the public information officer, and like you said, it can be daunting to try to get approval, and they have a pretty serious, you know, restrictive guideline on how they want the image of the department to be.
Mm-hmm.
So he went up there, and they knew him from some investigative work that he'd done. He knew he had a good reputation because he was a worker, and he sat down with the public information office and Don Aaron's office. He's our PIO. Explained what he was wanting to do. It was only for, you know, community engagement, which is one of the, talked about yesterday, one of the pillars of our police departments.
Right.
You know, 3 pillars of modern day policing for Chief Drake. We have organizational excellence, precision policing, and community engagement. So it tapped one of the 3 pillars that the department's big on.
I want to come back to you, by the way, precision policing.
Okay. Yeah.
We will.
Again, the term we talked about yesterday, and I never heard
a good
that
conversation.
So don't interrupt, but I don't want to forget that.
But yeah, David told them what our goal was, and it's just to kind of give like snippets, not to give newsreels, not to tell them, you know, we've arrested someone. It's simply just to brand our image for community engagement. Here's what your taxpayer dollars are doing in aviation, and just show them, like, you know, social media reels or pictures, still pictures of the aircraft doing hoist operation stuff, or doing oversight over the city, or, you know, just cool helicopters. Everyone loves cool helicopter stuff.
Yeah, that's right.
Thanks to our sponsor, Traca Systems. With over 25 years delivering groundbreaking searchlights, stabilized EOIR cameras, mission mapping, and downlinking solutions, Traca products improve situational clarity and coordination with ground crews, increasing mission safety and effectiveness. Visit tracasystems.com. See clearly, act decisively.
Yeah, the 2 things I see the most engagement on in law enforcement is canines and air support.
Yep,
and
that's it.
Both of you guys have social media accounts, and you happen to be in the same building. So I think there's something going on there. That's pretty cool.
It's really good.
Yeah.
And his photography is outstanding.
Yeah, he does a phenomenal job. He's really good.
Yeah.
I think what you brought up is really cool in understanding, well, there's a couple things there. Understanding your SOPs, what your policies, and what your organizational guidelines, what they're striving for is important, because then it allows you, as someone who's trying to get something done, figure out a way to adapt what you want done to the city's benefit. You know, sometimes we have great ideas, but if the idea doesn't align with some of the departmental values and missions, it's hard to explain why it's a benefit to the department, even though you know it's beneficial. Whereas he not only knew the person, but knew how it would benefit the city and how it went to one of your 3 pillars. That's ideal, you know? And then the other thing I want to talk about is networking and relational building. Had he not known that PIO and his first interaction with him was asking for something, it probably would have been a different conversation. You know, that the level of trust isn't there, and all those things are important. And I talk about the need not just to network interagency, you know, with our different folks in the community, but within your department, within your own city structures. How many times did we go to City Hall and ask for something to somebody that we've never worked with, you know? But you take, you know, and this I guess more applies on the leadership level. You take the time to go down to City Hall and get to know some of these folks that you might interact with and build those relationships. The first time you go to talk to them isn't the first time you're asking for something.
Yes,
you know? So
absolutely.
that's huge.
I listened to a leadership podcast that y'all did a couple of years ago with Clay Lacey, and
Well, he was on that.
Yeah.
my mind's going blank.
Terry Miauchi was on there.
Eric Widener.
Widener, and the safety apps.
Brian Smith.
Brian Smith, and he was a big proponent of networking for your unit, rep your unit, and we tried to take that to heart. That whole podcast right there was really good for us.
Makes us feel good.
So
we felt good about that when we got done with it and said, wow, these are important topics.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you found that beneficial too.
Absolutely.
And it just confirmed what you already were believing and doing. That's good.
And, repping the unit and not being the person that just shows up and, everyone has a handout, right? But what are they getting in return?
Yeah.
So, one of the first things we started doing when we tried to improve the unit past few years is just get out and be more productive, show our increases in crime statistic, how many arrests are we a part of, how many stolen vehicle recoveries are we, start tracking that stuff and show, hey, and then, rep your people, lift your people up.
Yeah.
And, give everyone an opportunity to get out there and make their name into if it's just a Chiefs coin, if your department has some sort of award system, not just Officer of the Month, if that's not, put them in. Our goal here is to try to get our unit repped, get their name on the chief's desk in a positive light every month, because when we're always the unit that's not causing a disciplinary packet to come across, but it's an award. It just makes their day better up there.
Oh, yeah.
And when we do walk into the command staff office and go, sir, here's a problem, here's what we need, they are happy to try to fix it, not annoyed that they have to fix another problem.
Right. Oh, you guys are just asking for another toy.
Exactly.
We actually need this, and that's huge.
Yep.
I love all these different points we're already hitting on. We're only 20 minutes in our conversation.
These are good.
But you talk about just empowering your folks. You identified the fact that Nat Geo, #NatGeo, had a skill set, and you allowed him to run with that. And I think a good leader recognizes the traits and strengths in their people and gives them the tools to make them better, right? So I love that you've done that.
Well, we've done that.
And again, a good leader praises his people, and you're doing that as well. Like I said, we're 20 minutes into the conversation and we haven't even talked about your background. So let's go back, and can you tell us where you grew up, where you went to school, and you end up in the military, and maybe how you found your way into the military and then law enforcement, what that looks like.
It's a quote, old movie. Where are you from? Lots of different places.
Good. That makes it better.
So I actually, I've lived in Tennessee, grew up in Tennessee. So I'm a Tennessee native. I was born in Jackson, Tennessee, and I grew up in West Tennessee. Went to high school in Camden Central High School in Benton County, which is a small county out west, just on the Tennessee River. There was nothing out there really for jobs and stuff. And my dad had retired from Memphis Police Department a long time ago. And so I grew up listening to law enforcement stories and, all of his stuff and his excitement about the career path. And he was Army prior to going into the police department. So, legacies, right? So you listen to your dad romanticize about all the fun times. And so you start looking at what you want to do when you grow up. And I wanted to go to the Army. and I tried to enlist active duty when we invaded Afghanistan. And they were like, "You're too young, come back when you're 18.
How old were you?
I was 17, just turned 17. So
where were you on 9/11, and what were you doing?
I was sitting in the living room floor of our house, and my mom called. She was at work and said, "Turn the news on." And, I can't remember how exactly old I was, like 13, 14 or something like that. I had to do the math, and I don't do simple math in public. It's a rule.
It's a good rule.
So, anyway, the gist of it is she said, turn the TV on because the first aircraft had hit. So I was old enough to know what was going on. And
that's crazy.
And, now we're starting to get officers that don't even.
Right. Weren't even born.
Weren't even born. It's crazy.
It's for our generation. That was the thing that where were you when? And that's, I think everyone
knows.
Mm-hmm. Crazy.
And I knew, and from then I was like, I'm joining the military. And, I was impatient. And I also knew I wanted to go to college and get my higher education. And my family didn't have the money to send me to school. So Army recruiter was like, I can't even put you in debt, come back later. And then the National Guard recruiter came up and was like, "Hey, you want a bonus? You want to join right now? I'll let you join right now." I'm like, "Okay." You want to go to college? Yeah, you can go to college. And then if you still want to go to active duty, you can go to OCS. And
that's cool.
So all the right things. I said, sign me up. But I did the split option. I went to basic training between my junior and senior year in summertime. I went back after that, and in the summer 2004, I finished my training and then deployed in 2005.
Wow.
I volunteered and went.
Very cool.
Just as I joined the National Guard, I knew I wanted to join the military, and then I also wanted to get my college education, so it did both things for me.
That's cool.
And so when I came back from my deployment, I had a newfound appreciation for education. I spent roughly a year and a half in Western Iraq and Ramadi just after the Fallujah ordeal, 2005, 2006.
You were running artillery back then?
Artillery,
is that right? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Can you hear?
No, what? We were on the Paladin cruise. We actually did fire a lot of artillery. It was a fun time to be in artillery.
Yeah, I bet.
Wild time for 19 and 20-year-old kid to be out there.
Yeah.
But, a lot of good life lessons on leadership there. Good leaders that I followed, and we did a bunch of different missions on top of artillery, but that was fun. I came back, went to college.
Where'd you go to college at?
So I did 2 years at Vol State here in Gallatin, Tennessee, to get that discount knowledge going.
Yeah.
And recently the governor of Tennessee made it where college at first 2 years is covered.
Oh wow, that's cool.
Yeah, under their Tennessee Lottery Act and stuff.
Wow.
So I didn't get that. I got my GI Bill though.
That's good. Yeah. Yes.
And then I went to a small college out in North Carolina called St. Andrews Presbyterian College, liberal arts college at the time, and got a degree in public history with honors research. And
so we were talking in the hangar yesterday, and you have a lot of what'd you call it? Folk history?
Yeah, like folk history and oral history, Scottish ancestors and stuff that came over to the eastern side of America carry their history through, kind of like, Homer, the bards, they told their history. They didn't write it down.
It's kind of like a podcast.
Yeah, like a podcast. So, a good connection there, right? You're telling your oral history, and it's interesting that that still happens, because if you look at it, first source history is getting this stuff down. So you're documenting. The podcast right here is documenting for future generations of aviation.
Absolutely.
Where were we and how are we going to go in the future? I think that's phenomenal. But there was a big push when I was going through it. As the World War II, the greatest generation was still here, but fading fast. And historians were in a mad push to catch oral history from those guys and girls.
I think what happens, and I'll apply this to our industry, but you can extrapolate that and go back to what you're talking about with World War II and the greatest generation. In our industry and in these generations, as folks retire, the lessons they learn during the course of their career kind of disappear as they leave, right? Traditionally,
institutional knowledge is gone.
Even if an SOP was written based on something that they had encountered, doesn't mean the lesson was transferred. It just means something, it's case law because somebody made a decision on something or something happened.
Yeah.
But
so-and-so's name is attached to this reason.
Right. But to be able to like hear the story as to why this transpired, I think it hits home in a lot of ways that doesn't happen otherwise, you know? But to go back to the folk history it was interesting. Yesterday we're in the hangar talking and we're looking for good places to eat. Everybody knows what Nashville hot chicken is. You know, it's a hot ticket right now, anywhere in the US at least. You go and Nashville hot chicken is a thing. It's popular. So your recommendation was to go to Hattie B's, which we went to, and that place was phenomenal.
It's great.
Yeah. Good recommendation.
Call.
And we're sitting around talking about Nashville hot chicken, and the question was, do you know the story behind it? And we're like, no idea. It was really interesting. Can you kind of give us a summary of that story? Because again, it's a popular thing in the U.S., and I think it's an interesting story to tell.
Yeah. Okay. So
Just the fact that you knew about this was fascinating to me.
Well, I mean,
But you had
that's the
folk history. You talked about a
that's the
professor
folk
you
history.
had. And,
Yeah. So it's just like, where does folk music come from? Where does gospel music come from in the South and bluegrass? Where are the origins of different things, right? And that's always been kind of fascinating to me. But I connect through associations, right? And CFI training and all that stuff. So Nashville hot chicken is a native Nashville thing, and it's a local family that was started. And Prince's Hot Chicken was the original hot chicken place. It was the only place for a long time, and it was an original staple from East Nashville. And I'm not sponsored by Prince's Hot Chicken, but
If you're listening, though, we might entertain it.
It's an original family, but it's a local family that the husband came home late one night after being out and carousing around and drinking. The story goes, right, and he woke his wife up late at night, Mrs. Prince, and said, I'm hungry. I haven't eaten dinner. Feed me some chicken. I want fried chicken now. And she was irate about it, and so she went to fix his hot chicken after getting out of bed, and decided that she was going to fix his chicken, and decided to you mix cornmeal and flour and pepper normally and stuff to put into a batter for fried chicken, right? Well, she decided that she was going to put, from my understanding of it, she was going to put a bunch of cayenne pepper and a bunch of paprika into this batter mix and fix this chicken. So she did that and put about a whole bottle of cayenne pepper in there, and then
A punishment for coming home late and waking her
everybody
up.
ate it, so it kind of backfired and said it was good, so it became actually messing with the recipe. From there they made it a family thing, and then made it into a restaurant because it was so good. So
that's so cool.
That is cool.
So yeah, you get paprika and cayenne or different types of pepper in there, and that affects the color of the chicken breading.
There it is.
There it is.
And Hattie B's.
And we went to Hattie B's right by the hotel.
Highly recommend
And
it.
It was wonderful.
Yeah,
we had a good time, and it was neat. We were laughing about how we knew the history and how just from meeting Nate and getting some folk history and how it just made dinner even more enjoyable because you knew the background. I'm fascinated by that stuff too. Origins. How did this start? I'm with you, Nate. Even down to chicken. It's just so cool.
Yeah.
That was good.
It's like being on a tourist trip, right?
Yeah.
Drive you around town and tell you some bunch of stuff.
Yeah. You could open a tour business at some
Nate's
point.
tour. You could do it on the air. You could do it on the ground.
Yeah.
Well, going back to your earlier days, you grew up in West Tennessee, joined the National Guard, wound up graduating from college. What happened after your degree was completed?
Thanks to our sponsor, Airbus. Airbus provides the most efficient helicopter solutions to its customers who serve, protect, and save lives and safely carry passengers in demanding environments. Its civil and military helicopters are flying all over the world, making missions possible. Visit airbus.com for more information.
So I was going to go back and do what I said, go through OCS and go back to active duty, and that was 2010. So sequestration and active duty was happening. They were drawing down forces. So I came home and got a job at the police department instead, back to my dad, right? Origins.
Yeah.
Army, law enforcement, public service, right? So I think we all have a calling to public service in this profession. So, it's not the second choice, but it was still, I don't want to say it's the second choice, but it's where I wound up. It was meant to be, right?
Yeah.
Made it to the police department in 2011. Started off in patrol, worked through precinct traffic, went through crash investigations, went to the fatal crash investigation unit. Got my crash reconstruction certification, very similar in math equation stuff between that and artillery, computing where the rounds are going to go. So just doing that with cars and people instead. But, did that for quite a while and stayed in the Guard and continued to serve part-time. And they picked me up for a warrant officer candidate school from the National Guard through the state of Tennessee and, let me go. And fortunately, sent me to Fort Rucker at the time to go to flight training. And
that's cool.
Came back as a UH-60 Black Hawk pilot for the Tennessee National Guard.
Very cool. Going back to your early days in West Tennessee, was there an influence in your life? I know your dad was the law enforcement influence, an Army influence. Was there an aviation influence that, you can identify and be like, this is what made me want to go into aviation?
I was always interested in aviation. I always wanted to fly. And I was a kid that always wanted to do stuff, right? I couldn't be still. And I read books and, then I wanted to go do what I read. I read Tom Sawyer and built a raft and told my mom and dad I was going to float down the Tennessee River. And they laughed about it until they realized I was
found your raft.
So they found the raft.
No, I built one. I really did. But
that's great.
So I was always the person that, I want to do it. I want to make the life achievement, move forward and be proactive on that stuff. And, I was serious about wanting to get flight training, but again, didn't have money to do that as a kid. So they did let me join the Civil Air Patrol when I was 10, 11, 12, what the joining age was for that. And, we didn't have the Boy Scouts at my school, small rural area. You were growing up in the fields.
Yeah.
You didn't need the Boy Scouts.
Yeah.
We went camping and fishing and hunting anyway. But I joined the Civil Air Patrol, did that stuff.
How long did you do that for?
I did that until I joined the Guard
Wow.
at 17.
That's cool.
So didn't really progress very far in the rank structure because I was too busy having fun.
Yeah,
Good base of knowledge, though,
But
wasn't it?
yeah, it was a good base of knowledge and a good, good information on the history of the Air Force and Army Air Corps and stuff like that and different things like that. And then there was, one of my best friends' father was a CW4 in the Army National Guard in the unit that I actually joined when I came back from flight school. And he was just a really, really good dude, really squared away, owned a business out there, a machine shop, but family business. Yeah, just a good family guy and leader and just level-headed. Talked to him about that stuff and always looked up to him. So
that's cool.
When the opportunity to do the Warrant Officer Corps came, the first thing I thought of was, that guy was a role model. And he actually wrote me a letter of recommendation. So
that's cool.
And as far as I know, he had never done that before.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
I was thrilled for that.
Yeah, when you look at those programs and what they offer you as far as, leadership training and structure and all those leadership traits that they instill in you, I think it's so valuable. I've talked to so many people that have benefited and ended up where you ended up because of those programs. One of our guests, I can't remember who it was, talked about the boards. They do mock boards and how that helped them for the warrant package. Mm-hmm. And when they got to the boards, did you have any experience with that in terms of, did you get to practice that as a Civil Air Patrol member and then execute that later as a prospective warrant officer?
I did. I got mock boards in Civil Air Patrol because, you still have a promotional process and you go through the rank structure of the Air Force from enlisted through officer. And I made it through most of the enlisted section. So you had to do mock boards while you were doing that. And you got exposure to, leadership seminars and different people. And
that's cool.
Community leaders and stuff.
That's even better base of knowledge than I thought.
Yeah.
That board thing, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Because you face that in life. You faced it when you came to the police department.
Yeah.
You had to
take
sit there.
Take the assessment center and promote. Yeah, everything.
Yeah, and as a teenager, you're sitting on boards. I mean, imagine that. That's the vast majority of teenagers never experience anything like that.
Yeah.
They think just standing up and giving a speech in a class freaks you out. That's easy compared to sitting in front of some people asking you questions. That's fantastic.
That are going to determine the outcome of your career choice.
Yeah. I really want this. Well, you got to get through us.
Yeah.
Well, that's a lot of pressure.
We were just talking this morning about, young kids, like young teenagers these days, have a hard time communicating because of technology, texting, and what that is like.
Social interaction.
Yeah, it's different.
Face to face is different.
It is.
So you think about some of the challenges they may have as time progresses, their career and lives progress, when it comes to interviews, when it comes to boards and those types of things. So I think programs like that are probably more important now than ever when it comes to preparing young minds for these processes later in life.
And so how that conversation came up. We won the lottery this morning and got a waiter named Chaz at Loveless Cafe that is an incredible communicator. And we were just stunned. He had it all. He was quick-witted, he was friendly, he was genuine, and he could talk. I mean, we talked to him a lot this morning. And we said, that's an impressive young man right there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he's in a generation where that's becoming less frequent. I'm being polite, aren't I? Less frequent. And we told him, Brent actually told him, whatever you decide to do, you're going to succeed because you know how to communicate and how to socially interact with people. So that's how that kind of the conversation came about, but it's exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's great. I want to change gears just for a second and go back to your enlisted days when you're deployed. I know whenever a large group of young guys get together with time on their hands, I know during deployments, sometimes you have time on your hands and shenanigans take place. What kind of shenanigans can you talk about that you got involved in?
I signed a non-disclosure agreement when I left country.
That means it's really good.
I keep going.
Artillery units are not immune to some good shenanigans.
Did you guys ever find yourself drawn faces on any of the artillery ammunition you sent downrange?
An hour or two. We did also. We had a good time.
That's cool.
It was a good group of people. It was a really good crew.
Yeah.
I'm looking at your drawing here. Is that what you were in? Was that the artillery piece is a tracked vehicle? What is that vehicle? And is that what you were in?
Yeah, it was a M109 Paladin.
109 Paladin. Okay.
Yeah, a self-propelled 155 millimeter howitzer.
Wow.
It's state of the art. It was in 2000.
Yeah.
What
was your role in that crew?
So I was in the Fire Direction Center. So we worked with them, and I went on the gun as well. So 13 Bravo is your cannon crew member, and they're the guy that slings around, and then 13 Delta at the time was the guy that ran the charts, and we called it charts and darts. But
yeah,
you'd pin the chart. We had a computer system that communicated directly to that. You receive a grid coordinate, and you did the computation for that, and it gave you the process data for what angle and azimuth that gun needed to be set on, and how much powder you needed to put behind the round.
So I'm just curious about this. So there was varying, I don't know what the name, pouch or pags of powder, depending on your distance.
Absolutely.
And that was one of the calculations, in addition to the angle and the how much powder you put in.
The powder was broken up into different types of powder. So you had white bag, green bag, red bag, and then you had kind of like, if you took a roll of Mentos, right, and you have your mint Mentos and your multi flavored Mentos, right, or something like that. Well, I guess the mint flavored, they're really strong on, right? Because they burn. But anyway, your powder goes from like white bag to red bag. Red bag is the real like fast burning stuff. Right. And so if you have a closer distance target, you don't want to overshoot it.
Right.
So that's affected by your azimuth and by your powder. So you had to get that right.
Yeah.
Because a 155 millimeter howitzer round will kill radius is 100 yards. 50 yards radius. I'm sorry, 50 yards radius. But if you put it on a 50-yard football line, it would kill everything from end zone to end zone and in the bleachers.
Wow.
So, and shrapnel and collateral damage past that was not included. So anything within 600 meters of friendlies was danger close. We had to be real accurate with that.
You better be good.
And anything that was downrange had to be verified that we weren't hitting civilians and stuff like that. So we had to be very, very, so it's an area target weapon, but we were using it for point target missions a lot of times because we were dealing with people shooting mortars and troops in contact on Marines and all sorts of stuff. And so, the white bag is the smaller one. So you put charge 3 white bag, you're putting three segments, and they come in bags, right?
Right.
Color coded.
Yeah.
You put those behind the round and put your primer in there and it goes.
And for artillery, I know in tanks there's different. Is artillery also have different types of rounds as far as what the shrapnel is?
Yeah. So you have HE, high explosive. You had we didn't use white phosphorus in country except for white phosphorus also is used in an illumination round.
Right.
But we didn't use it for troops in contact.
Gotcha.
Geneva Conventions, you don't use white phosphorus much anymore, if at all. So we use white phosphorus illum rounds. We didn't use mines, but you could deploy mines. You could use all sorts. They even have rocket assisted howitzer rounds now.
Oh wow.
We stuck to HE and illum.
Yeah.
So.
Interesting.
And what a cool experience for you.
Yeah, especially for a 19-year-old kid that grew up in the woods in West Tennessee.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
Talk about, and I think every conversation now we're coming on this path, you look at how that lent to the next experiences you had in your life. I talked about motors, getting there and doing crash investigations, how that math transferred over, and that was like the base knowledge you probably used to help you get to that next thing. And the next thing is aviation, and here you are.
I hated math in high school.
Yeah.
I hated math. I didn't understand why I needed to know it.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I started using practical application of math in artillery, they break it down so a teenage kid can sit there and do it in a combat zone, with slide rules and stuff like that. It was, it made sense.
Mm-hmm.
And now I had a reason to know it.
Yeah.
And then when I went to crash investigations, you had the formulas, right? It's
Right.
you're not doing long division off memory. You have the formulas. You need to know which formula to use, and you need to do it accurately. And probably one of the biggest cases for me was my first prosecutable case in crash investigations, and it was a 6-car MVA, motor vehicle accident, where a guy had been ejected and crushed between 2 cars, and he was hit by a guy who was fleeing from another hit and run where he just rear-end collision. He had 3 kids in the back of the car, in the back of his minivan. The suspect had 3 kids in the back of his minivan and his girlfriend. They were living out of the minivan. He was high on heroin and marijuana, and he had a revoked license, no insurance. And he ran a red light. He actually weaved the minivan down the bike lane, ran through a red light on Bell Road down in South Nashville, and hit this guy that was headed to the airport, going on a business trip. Dated just a regular Joe, doing his life, had his kids and wife at home, and hit him in the side door of his truck. It ejected him through the window and then crushed him between 2 cars.
Jeez.
That minivan caught fire, kept going into oncoming lane of traffic and hit a bunch of other cars. So that was a big case to put together. It took me almost 2 months to do all the math and put all the equations together. But at the end of it, I knew everything about that case.
Mm-hmm.
I knew what the speeds were. I knew the angles of departure and approach and all that fun stuff. The whiz-bang math. And then I had to sit down with a district attorney for traffic crimes with the wife, the widow, and explain, how the crash occurred and how her husband had died.
Wow.
And, all the ins and outs and details in a way that was articulate enough to not, to be respectful to her and his memory.
Again, we talked about some of the potential topics of conversation that were going to come up today, and mental health is one of those. And I think back to the things that we're tasked with doing in law enforcement, and that's one of the hardest things that I think you could ever have to do is to tell somebody their spouse has passed. And my heart goes out to you for going through that, and kudos to you for being able to prosecute the man responsible for that whole thing. It's insane.
Well, my goal was, do the best job, work on that case and do the best job that I could do to make sure that there was no hole in that case. If there was justice to be done, it was because if it didn't happen, it wasn't because I put a hole in the case because I was shoddy at my job.
Yep.
I think that is, the job has to be done. And, kudos to the guys out here that are doing all this stuff and across the country, working at these investigative cases and spending time away from their families, because even when they're home mentally, they're still working on the case,
Right.
Yeah.
So there has to be closure for not just the family, but the officer that's working on that case, because that's the type of person that can't turn that off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But there's a time when you need to be able to, have some peace of mind on that.
Yes.
So mental health is important.
Did you find working in motors that mental health was something that was talked about? Were the resources for you guys? I mean, I think a lot of the crashes that your everyday patrol officers go on are really traumatic for a lot of reasons, and those were ones where I think people should look for a little bit of assistance. You talk about your bucket filling up; it fills up pretty quick if you're dealing with a lot of those. So was that available for you? Has that been a resource?
You protect and defend. So do we. Astronautics' proven cybersecurity, connectivity, and upgrade solutions support helicopter OEMs and operators worldwide. When the mission matters, you need to trust that your avionics systems are secure, connected, and reliable, because lives depend on it. Continue to protect and defend. So will we. Contact Astronautics at www.astronautics.com.
Oh yeah, our department has a really good behavioral. They used to call it PASS, and behavioral health section. We have civilians that are just great counselors, and
Good.
sometimes they're open door, right? You want to go in there and talk with them. It's all confidential, and help empty that bucket, right?
Yeah.
But sometimes when it was a case that we went out on that was like, oh, this is a kind of high profile, or this was a kid was involved or something, our leadership would monitor and make sure, hey, y'all got to go talk.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you just go in there and say, I didn't see anything and I'm good, you got to go over there and talk to them.
Yeah.
I don't need to know anything that happened. Like, they didn't report back. There was a veil, right?
That's great.
But they were proactive in leadership. At least the guys that were there when I was there, our sergeants and our lieutenant were good about going, all right, this is just a significant enough situation. I think y'all should go.
That is really good to hear. Really good to hear. Not everybody gets that support.
Yeah.
But you mentioned that you were part of the fatal crash unit. I mean, you only went to fatal crashes? Is that?
That's it. Yeah,
oh my God! We're talking about bucket filling up fast. I mean, that's really unique. I mean, that's like being a homicide investigator. That's all you do.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not doing burglaries and other things. You're going to homicides day after day after day, fatal crashes day after day. That bucket fills up fast, and if your department and unit didn't think about the mental health side, that would be tragic.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Wow, that's a positive thing to hear that your department thinks that way.
Yeah. I think for me and for a lot of folks I've talked to when it comes to dealing with traumatic incidents, the ones that are really difficult to process for me, again, were the ones that you can identify with most, right? The one that has a kid that's the same age as your own kid, or has a wife who looks like your, or, is identifiable as it could be to your own life and your own circumstances. The harder for me it was to process. And so that's where motors, I think, is in crash investigations is difficult, because a lot of these folks are run-of-the-mill everyday people, right? Whereas in patrol, outside of motors, you're dealing with criminals. And when you deal with criminals, they're doing things that are outside of our kind of realm of understanding. Mm-hmm. I can't ever imagine ripping off my own family to get money for dope, so it's hard to feel bad for a lot of these people when they're doing things like that. But motors in these investigations are people that are your run-of-the-mill, identifiable people in your community, Yeah.
My dad was a retired homicide when he was in the police department. He retired before I was born. So again, he came on the police department, and I was a late addition to his life as he was retiring. So he was in the Memphis Police Department when he started homicide. He was actually there when Martin Luther King was shot.
Wow.
So give you a time frame, right?
Yeah.
And then he promoted, went through, and they had put him over the sex crimes unit, and he was there when they started putting together the kits that they put at the hospitals.
Yeah.
For rape victims. His unit helped start the foundation of what a rape kit would be. for the investigative teams.
Wow.
And he talking about emotional or mental health. They didn't have that.
Yeah.
He always made fun of it when someone came in and told him you need to do breathing exercise. It's like,
Yeah.
I don't have time for that.
Oh, yeah.
So,
the normal reaction, right?
Normally,
I
old
don't
school
need that.
reaction is, I don't have time for all this hippie stuff. But he also had 3 failed marriages and lives on 100 acres out in the middle of nowhere by himself right now. So,
Yeah, my dad, he started in law enforcement in the late 60s, and a very similar situation. Not that I saw in him, but when he talks about the industry at the time, that was something he didn't talk about because, like you said, it's hippie,
It's a
right?
weakness.
It's touchy-feely, yeah. But you look at the fallout from that, and most of the lives of folks that operated in public safety at the time, multiple divorce marriages, and their lives a shamble. And it's, to me, connecting the dots, you're like, oh, well, because you're behind the scenes is a shamble because of how much you're experiencing, right?
Yeah.
So all that to say, I like, today I think it's becoming much more standard and acceptable to, not even ask for help, but for administrators to say, hey, I'm not even asking, just go talk to somebody like you brought up, so.
And the resources are here at our department, which is awesome. And,
good.
Our guys here, we're a good arm's length away from a lot of the stuff, but you still, high tempo, right? And high speed group of guys here. But we just, as a sergeant in the unit, you're just making sure people stay healthy for their family.
Yeah.
Because, you get involved even on the level of pushing the unit, and being available and answering the calls, and you get kind of wrapped up on the mission if you're short staffed and stuff like that, making things happen. And it's not just looking at the bodies and the death, and it's dealing with being away from your family and dealing with burnout, and not looking at the safety of your op tempo as well.
Yeah,
So.
Great point. Well, I'd like to go back, and before we start talking about your agency as a whole and your aviation program, I just want to kind of encapsulate your time flying. You're still flying actively in the Guard, but you talked about becoming a Black Hawk pilot and what that was like. And then I also want to touch on our friends over at Brotellian. I know you know some of those folks, and it's a small world. But,
It is a small world.
Yeah. So what was that like, and what are you doing currently with the Guard?
I am still in the Black Hawk community for now, but I just got picked up to go to the C-12 program in Nashville. We have a detachment here with a King Air 260, but I'll be going to Army Fixed Wing pretty soon. My old company SP is the unit commander there, and asked if I'd be interested. Knows my locality to the unit, and availability for. I had to drive 2.5 hours to get to Jackson to fly the Black Hawk and my company out there that I was assigned to, but I still got out there and made sure we could maintain active duty minimums, just like active duty does. Have to fly just under 100 hours a year. So, even being 2.5 hours away, I still exceeded those minimums, and try to make sure I'm pulling my weight.
Keep going. Our drink of the day's here. So I'll just put a pin in that conversation just for a slight second. Drink of the day, as we know, is a segment here in the Hangar Z podcast, and it was delayed a little bit today. Our friend Brent Bundy from Vertical Magazine, who's been a part of this road tour from the beginning, volunteered to go to the coffee house for us and bring us back some coffee. What's the name of the coffee house?
The Frothy Monkey.
So thank you, Brent,
cool.
for doing that. It's been awesome working with Brent. His command of the camera and what he's doing is absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Seeing him work with you guys yesterday gathering content was a blast.
Yeah.
So fun.
That was a great flight. It was
Yeah.
a good time.
Anyways, thank you, Brent. And back to you talking about your aviation experience with the Guard and what you're doing.
Going to the C-12 unit, excited about that opportunity. It's a very small unit, so a big opportunity. I've loved flying the Black Hawk. Learned a lot about Army aviation and the air assault mission, and a lot of good people out there. People kind of joke about the National Guard, but there's some dedicated people in it, and there are some dedicated guys and girls in the facilities that run those things. I mean, they keep them there full time, keeping that stuff going. I talked about institutional knowledge earlier, and you have CW4s and CW5s running around keeping a unit going and keeping 30 pilots active on all of the operational needs, and mentors for me, coming up through aviation and building my time and making pilot in command for the Army and stuff like that was a big deal, a rite of passage, and uplifted by those guys and their knowledge. Our unit out there used to be 58D Kiowa Warrior pilots. When the Army lost those, they got the Blackhawks. So they're really a unique crew because all the old institutional knowledge is off of the scout mission. And they got thrust into the air assault mission. It's a different mission. Air assault's really detailed planning. Doesn't really match apples to apples to what the law enforcement mission is. So you get a Blackhawk pilot, it might not be the perfect fit to be, flying a camera mission for law enforcement aviation. Have a struggle to change up and adapt, right? The Kiowa pilots, those guys were just cowboys.
Yeah, yeah.
They get on it, they get in the saddle, and they go. And hasty missions, which is what we do.
Yeah.
And they get a mission, troops in contact, they go. And that's what we do here.
Yeah,
we flew with one yesterday, Matt.
Yeah,
he was a 58D pilot.
Yeah, actually, he's mentioned in a book here called "Cowboys Over Iraq" by Jimmy Blackman.
So we flew with a cowboy.
You flew with a cowboy.
Oh, that's good to know. I felt so comfortable with him.
Yeah.
He was great.
Yeah,
he was great, and I had no doubt. But when he told me, started telling us his background, I went, "We're in good hands here."
Yeah,
58D pilot. Yeah, baby.
Yeah.
Like I said, mentorship. And that's what I've tried to bring over here as the unit's grown. And, it's crazy that when I came over here, you're the new pilot and how quickly we've lost people.
Yeah.
The airline industry sucking up pilots, making the medevac stuff be more profitable to pilots that, law enforcement doesn't keep up with the industry pay. We know that. But we've lost, I was going back over our numbers, and from 2015 to 2022, we lost 12 pilots in this unit as the turnover, and we've tried to plug that hole.
Yeah, that's a big hole to plug.
For years. So right now, it looks like it's working. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But just being mentors for the new pilots and the program that we have is a huge thing for me.
Yeah, mentorship.
I had it.
That's huge. Leaving the thing better than you found it. Right?
Absolutely.
That's the goal. And
always make it better than it was.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the Army has surely helped you here as well. With a bunch of your pilots have military background. That certainly helps, I would think.
It helps, but I have to make it. I have to put out that it helps, but it's not. It's not just like I was saying. It doesn't mean that that's what it is. We're not the military.
Right.
We're law enforcement.
That's right.
We've had these conversations, like we're not the military, and someone thinks that we're trying to make it like the military. It's very important for me to differentiate that. We are not military aviators here. Mm-hmm. And I don't think we are, and I'm not trying to make it what it is. You see the poster on the wall, but that's just because that's a collectible.
That's right.
But we are law enforcement aviation. We are Metro National Police Aviation. That's what we are. We're not general aviation. We're not Army aviation.
Yeah,
we can take lessons from both.
That's what I was getting at. The foundation parts, the safety parts, the crew coordination parts, the situational awareness stuff.
Yep.
Yes, missions are dramatically different, absolutely, but that sometimes that's the easiest part to figure out.
It is.
I mean, when you think about it, people either have situational awareness or good CRM practices, or they don't.
They do.
And whereas the military stresses that a lot, and now you slide into whatever profession in aviation, whether it be law enforcement or you end up in an airliner. Cal Dockery is a good example.
Yeah.
160th Chinook driver.
Yep.
We had Cal on. I've known Cal for years. He flies for Alaska now. I guarantee you, his years as a Chinook pilot benefit him every day in that cockpit.
Oh, absolutely.
And those are the missions are.
Yeah.
You can't get any further apart,
right.
But he's better in that cockpit because of that military time. That's what I was kind of getting at.
Oh yeah, and I agree with you.
Yeah.
I'm not. I'm just saying. For my. I remember conversations in the hallway here with people, and because we have general aviation pilots, we have Army pilots. We have now in my lifetime in this unit, we now have pilots in Andrew Mulholland, the guy that flew the aircraft yesterday, the other one, the target bird for the pictures, right? He's he's a product of our program. He came here as a part-time TFO. He became a full-time TFO, and we trained him. Now he's one of our mission pilots, and he's doing a phenomenal job because he's had mentorship, and I think that's huge because guys like that are the future of the unit. Girls like that are the future of the unit.
Yeah, it's interesting. A lot of people outside of the industry ask me, when I was working for Ontario, what I do. Like, I'm a pilot in aviation, and the first question is always, "Oh, did you learn how to fly in the military?" I'm like, no, I had no military experience at all, and they're always shocked to hear that. And I think outside of what you guys are talking about with some of the underlying foundations that are built in the military, I think we've had a lot of good experience with bringing pilots in with no prior flying experience and building them based on what our operational objectives are, and kind of creating a product based on that. What's your experience been with that?
Building our
just having a freshly minted pilot with no experience, like we were just talking about, versus someone who's already got some experience and trying to mold them into this new mission profile.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Hangar Z podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe to hear more stories that promote the personnel and equipment behind the missions in public safety aviation. Lastly, stand by for a message after a word from our sponsors. Cheers.
You protect and defend. So do we. Astronautics' proven cybersecurity, connectivity, and upgrade solutions support helicopter OEMs and operators worldwide. When the mission matters, you need to trust that your avionics systems are secure, connected, and reliable because lives depend on it. Continue to protect and defend. So will we. Contact Astronautics at www.astronautics.com. Thanks to our sponsor, Airbus. Airbus provides the most efficient helicopter solutions to its customers who serve, protect, and save lives and safely carry passengers in demanding environments. Its civil and military helicopters are flying all over the world, making missions possible. Visit airbus.com for more information. Thanks to our sponsor, Traca Systems. With over 25 years delivering groundbreaking searchlights, stabilized EOIR cameras, mission mapping, and downlinking solutions, Traca products improve situational clarity and coordination with ground crews, increasing mission safety and effectiveness. Visit tracasystems.com. See clearly, act decisively.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of the Hangar Z podcast, and for supporting the sponsors who make these conversations possible. We hope you enjoyed our conversation with Sergeant Nate Dungum of the Nashville Metro Police Department Aviation Unit. To dive even deeper into the topics we discussed, be sure to check out the articles and videos by Brent Bundy that further examine Nashville Metro and the Hangar Z Vertical Valor Blades of Valor tour. You can find them over at verticalmag.com. Cheers.
Time to close up the hangar. Thanks for joining us on the Hangar Z podcast, brought to you by Vertical Helicasts.